Before we start this video, I just wanted to say that we lost about 1,000 members on my Discord server, the Flaaroni tribe, due to introducing an unknown bot by an unknown developer. As careless as we were, there's nothing I can really do to get those members back other than announcing that it happened. I talked about it on my community posts and Twitter already, and some people didn't even seem aware that I had a Discord server. So if you didn't know, my Discord server is in the link in the description of all my videos. We got almost half of our members back, but joining the Discord server would help myself and my staff a lot. We recently added an anime chat room for all of you weebs out there, and if you're not a weeb, you'll benefit from having every other chat room not consisting of anime discussions. Generally, I'm quite active there, so if you want to have a conversation with me, the Flaaroni tribe is the best way to do it. Also, thank you Almor Ultra for making these custom sprites. I'm hoping to use them in most of my future videos, and hopefully that'll motivate me to edit more. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Geometry Dash video. Geometry Dash 1.0 was released in August 2013 and consisted of 7 levels and a level editor. The levels consisted of very few objects, however. There's a classic gradient block, various grid blocks with outlines, a half block, various spikes, decorative spikes, and pulsing circles. It's pretty obvious Geometry Dash 1.0 was intended to be a simple mobile platformer and consisted of little artistic capabilities, unlike the level editor we all know today. However, some levels today are still influenced by 1.0, and those are the levels that I will explore in this video. I'll be going over every single rated 1.0 style level I can find within the 2.0 or 2.1 updates, give my thoughts on them, and talk about how they've changed. I know there are many unrated levels such as Defy by Freezy18, Nostalgic Journey by Kupazu and more, and Core by K Jackpot, that despite their unrated status became popular on YouTube. However, I wanted to talk about rated 1.0 style levels as those are the ones that RobTop himself has noticed. 1.0 style has always existed throughout the game, but during 1.9 or before, the editor wasn't nearly as advanced as it is today, and 1.0 styles were more or less dismissed as normal levels. 1.0 style has always existed throughout the game's history, but in the 2.0 update, 1.0 style was more or less forgotten, and for a good reason. 2.0 was a huge jump from the previous update, and it took many months for noticeable styles to come out and people to make enjoyable gameplay. The vast majority of 1.0 style levels that have come out during this time remain unrated. While many people have heard of Dear Nostalgist, Purity by Tamon was the first rated 1.0 style level in 2.0 I could find, released in January 2016. As expected, there was no real gimmick. There were some blocks with different colored outlines, but besides that, it's simply a solid 1.0 style level with good sync. The next 1.0 style level is Conical Depression. What many people don't know about Conical Depression is that it started off as a random challenge level and it was later extended by KRMAL. Because it is just an extended challenge level, it too didn't try to add anything new to the table. However, KRMAL would release a rather interesting 1.0 style level later. Because we got those two levels out of the way, let's talk about Dear Nostalgist by Triaxis. Standing at 6 million downloads, Dear Nostalgist is by a landslide the most popular 1.0 style level. It doesn't have the greatest reputation in the game because of the bugs, most notably the bug at 22.
What am I doing with my life? I could be doing anything.
However, you have to give credit where credit is due. Before this time, effects in 1.0 levels were completely new. Even using a move trigger on 1.0 objects was something we haven't seen before. Additionally, at 69% on Dear Nostalgist, Triaxis introduces a parallax, and if you touch any of the 3x speed portals, you die. The last level I want to talk about in 2.0 was About a Ghost by Aeolia. Similar to Purity, About a Ghost is made up of almost entirely 1.0 blocks. There's the occasional move trigger and a subtle amount of curtain decoration, but besides that, it doesn't really add anything new to the table. But hey, it at least had enjoyable gameplay and a groovy Undertale remix. Dear Nostalgist paved the way for 1.0 style, but it would take years for 1.0 styled levels to come out as frequently as they do now. It would take another 13 months for another 1.0 styled level to come out, and even then it went under everyone's radar at 40,000 downloads. Primal Night by Nico99 was a 3-minute long mega collab that consisted of 24 people. Almost all of the blocks were made out of 1.0 blocks, but almost every section used move and various color triggers. I do have to give credit to Wolf for making a 3D effect, as I think that stood out from the rest of the level, but besides that, there was nothing super noteworthy. The next 1.0 style level came out 5 months later, which was Mountain King by Funny Game. What was interesting about Mountain King is that it used a classical piece rather than a dance song, and it works surprisingly well. Unlike EDM, where the objective is to basically make everything as loud as possible, the cover Funny Game used for Mountain King is a lot more gradual. It started quietly at the beginning, but it came louder and more chaotic near the end of the level. Funny Game used 1.0 style, a very simple style for the quiet part, and I think that choice worked perfectly. The second half of the level takes what's normally used as deco from 1.6, such as chains and spears, and uses them as obstacles, which is an interesting use. Finally, the level ends with what's supposed to be 5 times and 6 times speed before ending the level. It was a well-synced level, but it went unnoticed until it finally got rated 19 months later. The next 1.0 style level was quite popular when it first came out, but it seems like we've all forgotten about it. Power by Small. Unlike any 1.0 level we've seen so far, Power introduced many gimmicks to us, and it showed that you can in fact make an enjoyable, epic-worthy level with almost exclusively 1.0 blocks. The level starts off relatively normal, but at the drop, the blocks not only rotate, but act like debris in an explosion. The next section uses different outline colors to signify depth. Finally, Small uses 1.0 gradient blocks and stars to make a distinct, though abstract, landscape. While Dear Nostalgist invented 1.0 style, or at least popularized it, Small innovated Triax's ideas and made something a lot more familiar to what we see today. Additionally, many unknown creators started making 1.0 style levels with gimmicks, some of which gained hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, but remain unrated. The peak of 1.0 style was yet to come. The peak of 1.0 style is arguably the release of Aleph Null. While the download count isn't nearly as high as Power, the level had a lot of coverage on YouTube. People such as Viperin, NEXUS, and the level creator Xander uploaded a video of the level, each video gaining hundreds of thousands of views. What many GD players don't realize is that Aleph Null has been used in basically every rhythm game with a level editor that has spawned numerous innovative maps. In Guitar Hero 3, there were speed changes, pauses, and glitch effects. In Osu, the creator took advantage of the storyboarding and added fake circles. And finally, in Beat Saber, the creator somehow made the blocks go the opposite direction. I know I'm going off topic, so time to talk about the Geometry Dash level. So you might be wondering, what gimmicks did Xander add to his level? Well, for starters, it's a layout, or at least I've seen many people call it a layout. While many people call Aleph Null a layout and say it's more of a finished effect level, I don't even want to imagine what Aleph Null would look like if it were decorated. HJFOD said it better than I ever could. The level benefits from its simplicity, and that's main focus is its gameplay and interesting effects. And interesting effects there are. The level started off with glitch effects, then the ball platforms rotate, then the top half of the ramps where the wave moves go in the opposite direction, then the blocks start individually fading in, then large platforms start rotating, then the whole level pauses for just a second, and of course we can't forget the meme hole. Sorry you all had to put up with my terrible sense of humor. Anyways, the level ends with an implosion. That implosion blew my mind when I first saw it. Xander may have not been the originator of 1.0 style or even any of the gimmicks he used, but he was able to popularize the style to a wider audience, cramming in as many gimmicks as possible while still syncing to the song perfectly. Around the same time of Aleph Null, a completely different type of 1.0 style level came out, a level that consisted of excessive glow, Essentia by Zafkiel and more. Essentia is a fast-paced 3.5-minute, high-energy level with the block design being made up of mostly 1.0 objects. The amount of focus on 1.0 style varies from part to part, but all of them have some focus on 1.0 block design. There are glow effects and unique backgrounds, and the complexity really makes you forget that this is all a 1.0 style level. Essentia did something unique, merging the old with the new, and that is an idea that would be repeated. The levels from here on out are levels that continued the 1.0 trend, but none of them were nearly as influential. It's hard to say if Time Flies by OSIRIS GD is a 1.0 style level, because it's a level that starts off as 1.0 with extra decoration, similar to Essentia, but as the level evolves, the decoration changes to the different updates in chronological order. I still wanted to mention this level because I love the way OSIRIS GD was able to use mostly 1.0 objects at the beginning of the level, but use a custom background, move triggers, and glow to make the decoration look more current. Stereo System by Castrix was pretty similar to the previous two levels I talked about, but on steroids. Basically, every object from the background to the block designs to the air deco had some sort of motion, but at the same time, almost every object used was either glow or elements from a past update. I also love the blurry effect Castrix used here, it looks so clean. Unlike the previous three levels, Kodu by Koolboom and more has less current elements, but it varies from section to section. Koolboom's part has a huge emphasis on motion and swapping the platforms with little decoration, while Chase's part, on the other hand, well, it's what you would expect from Chase. I do have to praise the sync. Almost everything is synced perfectly to the melody of the song. Every level we've seen so far has an emphasis on 1.0 blocks, but uses some objects that aren't from 1.0, whether they're move triggers, air deco from 1.6, or even glow. But F3HCS, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, by Durian Head changes that. F3HCS is a pure 1.0 level if you don't count surpassing 1.0's object limit as not 1.0. I was suspicious at first because the layering between each object looked too good, but Durian Head didn't even use Z layers. It uses exclusively 1.0 elements, which is a feat in itself, but making it look presentable, especially during a time where levels are more detailed than ever before, makes this level so much more impressive. Also, you have to appreciate that Thanks for Playing that every 1.0 level had. EXO by KRMAL was in the works for 2 years before Power and Aleph Null, but it wasn't until December 2019 when it came out. Like Mountain King, KRMAL uses simplistic song to go with a more simplistic style. EXO by Eden is practically a pop song with few electronic elements, but it's far more stripped down than most GD songs today. Call this a layout, but I see using mostly 1.0 elements for this level to be more of an artistic decision. This level is also so well known in GD, if you were to say she's in love with the concept to any GD player,
she's in love with the concept,
they'd know exactly what you're talking about. EXO was the last 1.0 style level in 2019 that got rated, but when 2020 came around, we saw less 1.0 style levels and there was less demand for them. Ultia Destruction as well as Fresh and Dry came out in March, but they were both typical 1.0 levels with nothing being added to the table. They were both pretty controversial levels that came out because of how there are many levels better than Fresh and Dry that are still unrated, and to be fair, I think the rating of these two levels were pretty questionable. Both creators Alcatrizi and Lation even said they weren't trying to get a rate and that they made it for fun. The last two levels I wanted to talk about were Marinol by Philip and 9CT by the CD Pre. Marinol is pretty similar to Aleph Null in the sense that it's 1.0 styled and uses multiple gimmicks that have already been used before, but Marinol wasn't nearly as popular as Aleph Null. Both the gimmicks and the level's concept were both things that we've seen before. Like Aleph Null, Marinol uses a song by Leaf, and I think Philip did a great job choosing gimmicks that work with the song. It's also significantly easier than Aleph Null, so more people can play and enjoy the level, but overall it's a pretty forgettable level. We also saw the same thing with 9CT by the CD Pre. The gimmicks such as the ground being treated like a separate object, and the fake spikes being treated like real spikes are cool, but 9CT basically repeated the same story as Marinol. Finally, let's talk about the future of 1.0 style levels. 1.0 style is still a thing, with people coming up with different ways to make their levels interesting, while still maintaining the style. However, 1.0 style is generally falling out of favor. Sure, many of them are getting rated by RobTop, but there's less demand for it now, especially the ones that lack some sort of decoration. It's very possible 1.0 style could die out the same way generic levels in early 2.1 died out, because people got too caught up with them being rated. However, I think the more likely possibility is that they will stay in some form. If I were to guess which form, I'd say the levels that merge 1.0 blocks and current decoration, because when a current style becomes relevant, chances are you can combine that certain style and 1.0 block design. At the end of the day, it is 1.0 style. Every single GD player has at one point seen that fading gradient block, and I find it quite likely that these levels in one way or another will be here to stay and remind us of simpler times. I would like to thank all of you for making it to the end of this video. I wouldn't say I'm demotivated with GD and interacting with its community, but I am making content for it. I don't want to make the same stuff over and over, and I've wanted to make a video analyzing level trend for a while now. Also, believe it or not, I've wanted to try to actually edit, besides editing gameplay and screenshots I show in most of my videos, for quite some time now. It's been about 8 months since I've originally started coming up with ideas for edits, but I've also been scared of trying to execute them, so hopefully this video turned out good. Also, if you want to see the spreadsheet I use to take notes and order the levels, it will be in the description. Also, thank you to Jordan TRS for looking over the script. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment, subscribe if you're interested in my content, and as always guys, this is Flaaroni signing out.